Okay, and we are on. Hi everyone, welcome to another masterclass, the second masterclass of the year, and our masterclass number 20. What a number and what a masterclass we have prepared for you today. Today we have Pedro Oliveira with us, one of our best front-end developers here at TAI Interactive, and a common persona here in the high masterclass scene. Today, we are going to introduce you at home to CSS. Am I saying it right, Pedro? Yeah,
SASS, probably.
to SASS. And Pedro is here with us to lead this presentation on. Uh, Pedro has also wrote an article about this topic. If you want to check it out, we have the QR code here and also the link in the description of this video. I suggest you to go and check it because it's a full guide of what Pedro is going to talk about today. And with that said, hi Pedro, how are you? And can you lead this presentation on?
Hello. Yes, I can welcome everybody. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Once
Uh,
again.
Once again, yes, but probably my I don't know sixth master class probably. But
Uh,
but I like to do these kind of things. That's not a problem.
yeah.
So as João said, we prepared here a small introduction to CSS preprocessors. Okay, we will talk about what is a CSS preprocessor, why we need these kind of tools. I'm going to show you because in fact it's not difficult. I'm going to show you how to install it, then how to code, okay, and how, based on the way CSS preprocessors work, I'm going to show you how the ways you have to compile code and use it on your page. Okay, so let's start with a small introduction to CSS. Then again, this is a very beginners masterclass. Okay, I'm not going into much detail. So CSS basically was developed or proposed back in 1994 in a scholar context, okay, but it was adopted only 2 years later in 96. Even though it was accepted as a web standard, not all the browsers, I mean, probably there was no browser uh, we can say that supports entirely all the CSS web standards, all the features. So only in the 2000 we had the first browser uh, supporting 99% of the first of all the features from the first version of CSS. And surprisingly, it was Internet Explorer. I think it was version 5 of Internet Explorer. So it's funny because for those of you who know about CSS a little, know that the old Internet Explorer had a lot of problems with CSS. So it's funny, Internet Explorer for Macintosh. I mean, it was the first browser to adopt almost 100% of CSS features. So today, CSS grow a lot, got bigger, and yeah, today it has more than 200 properties, and we can extend this number to more than 500 properties if we also include all the attributes variations, all the rules that are available, everything. It can easily grow more than 500. So, before going deeply into what is a CSS preprocessor, I have a kind of a, a subject here that is particularly um, confused or accepted by some people. And I mean, when I say that, for me, CSS is a programming language ish. Okay, I mean, it has rules, it has a syntax that we need to follow, kind of. It has best practices defined, naming conventions like DEM that we need, well, we don't need to follow, but we are advised to follow. And basically, like any other programming, like Java or C Sharp, for example, it has an engine that will interpret the code. I mean, the browsers. All right, but the only thing here that maybe some people used to say that no, CSS is not a programming language, is because by itself CSS code is not capable of solving all types of problems. Okay, um, but then again, when I'm writing CSS, okay, I like to think that I'm programming in a language. Okay, CSS is a language, and I'm programming, so I like to say that it's a programming language. Okay, it's not a typical programming language, but I think it's a programming language. So if you don't agree with me, let your opinion, write your opinion on the comment section of this video, and we can have a small debate on this. I already talked about this with a lot of people. I didn't entirely change my mind on this, but leave your comments there saying what you think about this. All right. So, what brought us here are the CSS preprocessors. For those of you who already wrote some code using CSS, probably understood that there are some limitations, okay, regarding the syntax. It's I mean, syntax. Some browsers already let pass some syntax errors that we may do. The browsers interpret that and let the CSS run, and it doesn't give us errors, but the syntax is a problem. I mean, the maintainability is also a problem. Okay, it's not easy to, and our files are getting bigger and bigger because our pages are getting more complex with animations and transitions and a lot of stuff and layout stuff and all of that. So it's difficult to maintain more than one CSS files. Structuring the code is also difficult. Okay, we don't have much. Basically, we don't have a way of nest attributes inside attributes inside attributes. Okay, it's not easy to read and to find what we want. And the worst of these limitations is the lack of methods that help us reuse code in different sections of our CSS file. It doesn't have functions, and it doesn't have variables. I mean, CSS has CSS variables, but the difference here is that these variables that I'm talking about are those kind of variables that when I use a variable on the first line of the CSS, later on the code, if I change the value from CSS variable, the upper code, the code on top that ran before, will also change. Okay, so these are variables, but not so much. So this is where CSS preprocessors come in handy. Okay, it's like CSS with superpowers, because they will extend the capabilities of CSS. Okay, they will improve. They will allow me to create a structure for my files. I can separate my main file into a lot of other files, and then they came together, resulting in a single file. It's easier. So basically, we are talking about writing CSS in a more modern way. Okay. And naturally, it will give us the advantage of having functions, nesting rules, the so-called variables that I said before. So it's a very useful tool. I don't know how to program without CSS preprocessors anymore nowadays. Um, so don't, if you didn't use this until today, I encourage you to start using. Okay. So basically, the way a CSS preprocessor works is quite easy to understand. 3 steps. Okay. I have my CSS code. Okay. I mix some CSS attributes, some classic ones like margin top, background colors, all of that. I mix this with the syntax from the preprocessor. Okay. I have my codes. I have a lot of files. Then the CSS preprocessor compile the code, okay, in the files. It will create a singular CSS file, a very regular one. It will generate this file so we can add this to our page so it can be interpreted by a browser. These are the 3 steps, okay? Writing code, using syntax, then compile the code, and then generate, after the compilation is done, we have a CSS file, a very regular CSS file. So, that being said, there are a lot of CSS preprocessors, okay? I mean, probably SASS, PostCSS, LESS, and Stylus are the most used ones. At least, I think, as far as I remember, according to last year's CSS survey, I think these are the most used ones. Basically, some of them are more complex in syntax or has more features than the others, but in general, I think the main features are equally present in all these preprocessors. Okay, so for the sake of this presentation, since we don't have a lot of time, we are going to focus only on SASS. I mean, it was the first preprocessor I learned. I like it. It's simple. It has all the features that I need. It's very easy, very quick to learn. The installation is also easy, but I mean, they are all easy to install anyway. So I encourage you to learn a little about all of them and choose one that best suit your needs. Okay. So the SASS preprocessor, what brought us here, just to talk a little about this, just by curiosity, SASS has obviously has a syntax. SASS has its own rules, okay, but it has 2 different syntaxes that you can use. As the SASS syntax and the SCSS syntax, okay. And as you can see here, the SASS syntax is more easier to write in a way, okay? You don't have commas, you don't need to have braces to structure or to nest your classes or your attributes, so it's cleaner on screen, okay? The CSS variation, this syntax, is more like the traditional CSS. Okay, you have commas, you have braces. So this is the main difference. Okay, the syntax is one thing, the features are another thing. Okay, so the features are all the same. All the syntax belongs to SASS, but you can choose going one way or the other one. Personally, I keep using SCSS since I'm more used to CSS. It's sometimes confusing, all these namings. But yeah, personally, I choose SCSS just because. Okay, but it's up to you. So to start using SASS, we need to install it, and it's quite easy. Basically, you have two ways of doing this. If you are a more junior developer, less experience with the command line, uh, I advise you to start at least to try out uh, um, using a preprocessor. Okay, you have a good application called Scout app, and basically this is an application. I think it runs on Windows and Mac, maybe Linux. I think, I'm not sure. But basically, we install it and it will do everything to you. Okay, for you. I mean, um, you don't need to worry about anything. You basically just need to give the application the file or the folder where you have your files, and it will compile the code for you, generates the final CSS file. You don't need to worry about anything. If you are a more experienced or a more like a power user that knows how to run the command line, then you can try and, I mean, you don't need to install anything on your, I mean, you don't need to install an application on your computer. You can install the preprocessor, the SASS preprocessor, using the command line. Okay. So when you choose this option, okay, if you are, again, if you are more used to use a command line, uh, you have three different package managers. All right, there is, I mean, there are like small applications that give you a way of installing packages on your computer that you can then use, for example, like the SASS preprocessor, okay, and you can install them with the command line. So you have, for example, Node.js, Chocolately, and Homebrew. Both all these three package managers has available the SASS preprocessor package. Okay, so you download them, and then you can start using. So after you choose one of these package managers and you install it, it's very easy to install the SASS preprocessor. Okay, so if you want to use Node.js to install SASS, you run this code. Okay, install -g SASS. If you want to, if you have installed Chocolately, sorry, you can use these command line codes, and Homebrew, the same thing. You can use this one to install SASS. So after this, you are up and running to start using SASS on your computer. Basically, one line, and you're done. So after you install it, you can start coding naturally. Okay. For example, you create a folder. Then inside that folder, you can start creating your SASS files. The extension for these files will be .scss, as hopefully you can see here. So what we have here is a file called masterclass.scss, and it has some styles in it. What I'm saying is I will have the layout header. I mean, this symbol here will tell me that the final result will be the concatenation of the previous, let's call it element, the previous element with the current one. Okay, so layout, and then João, help me here. How to call this character here is the commercial E?
Yeah.
Commercial E?
Commercial end. Yeah.
Okay, so with this symbol here, what we'll have on the final CSS here, this masterclass.css, this is the CSS that is generated when I compile this one, when the preprocessor compiles this file. It will generate the CSS one, and it will give me a dot layout dash header. Well, not dash, it's a small line. Okay, and the same thing for content. Okay, it will concatenate layout with content and will give me layout content. For example, again, inside the content, inside the content area, if inside the brackets, as you can see here, I have this commercial end, I don't know, and with the title next to it.
You
So
can
what?
call it end, Pedro. You can call
Sorry,
it. You can just call it end.
end
Yeah,
end
yeah, yeah,
character.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, okay, let's go with it. So with the end character, it will concatenate with the previous one, and this one will concatenate with the previous one. Okay, so naturally I will end up with layout, content, title, and then inside this class, inside the bracelet, I will have font size as I have here, and line height, the same for here, and then the same for footer. So obviously this is a very simple exercise, okay, but if we do this, we can start organizing our code, and basically this is the one of the features. Okay, here you saw, for example, nesting. Okay, that is grouping things inside another things. Okay, so you make your file, and then you are good to compile the SASS file, okay, to get the final CSS result. Sorry. So you have two ways. Okay, let's say two ways of compile your code. Again, using the command line. Okay, if you use the other application, it will do everything for you. You don't need to worry about it. But if you go with the command line approach, then you will have two ways to compile your code. You can choose to do it manually, okay, and compile and convert a CSS file or a folder into a single CSS file, or if you prefer, you can have a listening event running on the background, and every time you change a specific SASS file, the compiler, the preprocessor compiler, is looking at that file or that folder, and it will compile the code automatically for you. Okay, so the first way, if you want to manually compile the code, you just need to use run this command on your command line, like SASS. Then the SASS is obviously the identification of the precompiler. Then you type in the file, the SASS file you want to compile, and you say to the compiler that the output will be this file here, output.css. Okay, and you run it, and the file will be compiled and the output will be generated. Or then again, if you want this to be done automatically, if you, before the file you want to compile, you add this flag watch, okay, and this will start listening to this file, listening for changes in the background, and every time you change it, it will compile to output.css in the same folder, this one. Okay, it will create this file, the same folder as this one. Then again, a small variation of this automatically slash manually way of doing things is instead of instead of just ask for listening for a file, you can choose a bunch, not a bunch of files, a folder. Okay, in this situation, it's a folder called app/SASS, and then compile the code for the on this folder here. All right, and it's the same. Every change you made to any file inside the folder, the compiler will run and will generate code. So as you see, it's not that difficult to use SASS. Install, type your code, and then just run like a listening run commands like this one, or compile your code as you are going. So basic commands and features from SASS precompiler. As I said before, you will have available variables, okay, that you can change while you are using, while you are programming CSS on your files. All right. For example, here we have a variable called primary color, and I can use it on an attribute, and the final result, obviously, it will be CSS. Then, as I showed you before, you have the nesting feature. Okay, you can organize almost like you have on HTML hierarchy. Okay, and you can organize your code, everything, so it's easier to read, it's easier to maintain, so it's more readable. Okay, you will have if statements. Okay, it's basically like any programming language if else statement. Okay, for example, here I have like a mixing here. It's kind of a function. Okay, mixings will behave as almost as functions. Okay, so I have an input parameter here called circle. Then I inside this mixing I have an if statement saying that when circle is true, okay, it will also not just add the width and the height attributes, it will also add the border radius attributes. That by itself, it's reading the other attribute from this mixing here. So the result will be, well, I don't have the result here, but basically it will output me inside this class, it will output the attribute width with 100 pixels, the height attribute with 100 pixels, and the circle attribute with border radius 2 pixels, something like that. Okay, so keep in mind you have if else statements you can use. Then again, another great feature that you don't have on CSS is loop cycles. All right, it's quite useful if you want to run through an array of elements and apply some kind of attributes to all that elements. For example, so you will have the for cycle. Then this here is will be the item. Then you have the from through, almost like what you have, for example, in JavaScript. Then inside the for cycle, you can use this variable here to apply to your elements. Okay. Then you have partials and modules. It's kind of the way you can organize files, okay, in your structure, in your folder. So basically, if you have like this file here with the body color 0, okay. If you have another another file, you can like import or use the the classes and the attributes that you have on the first file, and then the final result will be this one. And you can organize everything. And then the good thing here is if you have some mixings or variables or functions in this file, you can use them on the second one. Yeah, and these are the main features. Okay, obviously this is just an introduction. This is me saying, if you are a UI developer, if you are a front-end developer, try to use preprocessors. Go and learn how to use them, because they are very useful. They will improve the speed of coding. Okay, it will be faster for you to deliver your work, and you can organize better things. So I encourage you to look at this in more detail. So basically, I will leave you with this. Basically, CSS is like an old car, an old V8 car from the 90s. And SASS or preprocessors are the modern stuff that we add to that car, like a media center, a technological media center. So it's fun to ride this car. Okay, we can go and rally with the car, a good engine. It's fun. It's not that modern. It lacks of modern features, but I can add some powerful features like this radio with applications in it and things like that. So for me, it's basically this. Okay, so then again, explore this. There are a lot to learn here. So yeah, that's fine.
They can learn also on the article that you have wrote.
Yes.
If you want and go and check it, you will have a more detailed on those topics that Pedro spoke about throughout the presentation. I don't know if you want to say anything else, Pedro.
No, I think it's fine.
If your presentation is concluded, I want to thank you all that stood by and got to the end of this presentation and really enjoy this type of master classes that we are doing. I will advise you, if you have any type of question that may came along with this master class, you can always drop your questions on our comment section of this video. We will reply to you as soon as we see them. And with that said, thank you, Pedro, for this great presentation. And see you on the next masterclass, everyone.
It's not going to be me, by the way.
Yeah, it's not going to be Pedro, but we sure have a really special masterclass prepared for you for the month of March.
Yeah, I mean, if you want any kind of advice on how to start with this, I mean, let it in the comments, and we can help you for sure. Okay?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all, and bye-bye.
It was a pleasure. Bye.
Bye.